So there's a number I want you to sit with for a second. $275 million. That's how much of Ripple's stablecoin is parked in one lending vault on Ethereum right now. And on August 3rd, that vault started accepting XRP as collateral. The headlines all ran with that big number, and the big number is real, but it is not the story. Because when I went and read the actual settings this vault is running, not the press release, the contract, I found that the people who approved XRP gave it the most cautious terms of anything in the entire book. The lowest borrowing limit, the smallest ceiling. And here's the part that got me. They had originally proposed no ceiling at all, and then changed their minds 4.5 minutes later. All of that is sitting on a public blockchain, permanently, where anyone can go read it. Quick thing before we start, we've got a Discord called The Motion Room, and there's a channel in there called Early Access, where these videos land before they go public. Come make it yours. And if you'd rather just read, the newsletter is one email, every Friday, every number traced to a primary source. Both links are below. Okay, here's the setup. Flare is a blockchain that does one unusual thing really well. It takes coins that can't run smart contracts on their own, like XRP, and gives them a way to work in decentralized finance. The version of XRP that lives on Flare is called FXRP, and on August 3rd, Flare published a post with a fairly dry headline. FXRP collateral expands Sentora's RLUSD vault on Morpho. Let me translate, because there are 3 names in there and you probably only recognize one. RLUSD is Ripple's dollar stablecoin. Morpho is a lending protocol on Ethereum. And Sentora is the firm that runs this pool of money and decides what it's allowed to lend against. So, put together, you can take XRP, turn it into FXRP, move it to Ethereum, post it as security, and borrow Ripple's dollar against it, without selling your XRP. Both companies are careful about how they word it. They call FXRP the first form of XRP approved as collateral in an institutionally curated lending vault on Ethereum mainnet. And every one of those qualifiers is doing work, because XRP has been usable as collateral on Flare itself for months. What's new is the venue and the underwriter. And Flare's CEO, Hugo Fillion, said something I thought was genuinely well put, that XRP is now collateral and institutional risk team underwrites on Ethereum mainnet, and that counts for more than another bridge listing. So who are these people? Here's the thing. A lot of you already know this company. You just know it by a different name. Sentora is what Into the Block became after it merged with Trident Digital last May. Into the Block made those on-chain analytics charts a huge number of people in crypto have used for free for years. Go to intotheblock.com today, and it just redirects you to Sentora. Same company, new banner. One correction, because a lot of coverage got this wrong. The person quoted in the announcement is Jesus Rodriguez, and he's the co-founder and chief technology officer. He's not the CEO. The CEO is Anthony DiMartino, who headed risk strategies at Coinbase. These are not anonymous people. And now the part I want to be completely straight with you about. Ripple and Flare are both investors in Sentora. So the firm that just approved Flare's asset into a vault denominated in Ripple's stablecoin is part owned by Flare and by Ripple. Neither announcement mentions that. It's not a scandal, and it doesn't make the risk work fake. But you deserve to know, and I'd rather you heard it from me. All right, to understand what Sentora actually did, you need one idea about how Morpho works. Most lending platforms throw everything into one giant shared pool, where one bad asset can hurt everybody. Morpho went the opposite way. On Morpho, a market is a tiny, isolated thing. One asset you put up, one asset you borrow, and settings that lock the day it's created and can never be changed. Not by Morpho, not by a vote, not by anybody. and anyone can create one without asking permission, which sounds alarming until you see the flip side. Somebody has to decide which markets are actually worth lending into. That's the curator. A curator runs a vault, depositors put money in, and the curator decides which markets that money can go to and how much. Sentora is a curator. And hold on to what a curator can't do. A curator can never withdraw your money, can't pause your withdrawal. The most they can do is change what the vault lends against. And if they want to add risk, they have to announce it on chain and sit through a waiting period first. Reducing risk is instant. Adding danger is slow and public. That asymmetry is the entire safety model, and I'll show you it working. Okay, this is the screen I actually got excited about. Sentora's Vault, live. Every collateral it lends against, side by side. Look at the borrowing limits. Kraken's wrapped Bitcoin, 86%. Staked Ether, 86. All the Bitcoin wrappers, 86. The yield-bearing stablecoin stuff sits higher at 91.5. And then FXRP, 77. The lowest number in the entire book. And Morpho only offers 9 possible settings. 77 is the 4th lowest. I pulled every Morpho market on Ethereum to see how unusual that is, and out of 1,000 markets, only 64 sit on that rung. What does it mean for a human being? Post $100 of Bitcoin here, you can borrow 86. Post $100 of XRP, you can borrow 77. Now look at the far right column, the ceiling. Bitcoin's allowed 160 million. Staked-ETH, 95. FXRP, 5 million, the smallest in the vault. And of that 5 million, they've put 1 million to work. 1 million in a vault holding 275 million. And a quick note on that number, because you'll see a different one everywhere else. Flare and Sentora both say 280 million. On the day they announced, the vault was actually sitting around 274. It's a roundup, not a fabrication, but I'd rather give you the reading than the rounding. Either way, that big headline number is the container. It is not the XRP exposure. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the timeline doesn't match the press release. The announcement went out August 3rd. The market itself created July 28th, 6 days earlier. Anyone can deploy a Morpho market whenever they like, so deploying it is easy. Getting a risk desk to fund it is the hard part. So I pulled the vault's own event log off Ethereum, and honestly, this is the best thing I found. July 28th, 7:07 in the evening, Sentora submits a request to raise the FXRP ceiling, and the number in that request is the maximum value the contract can even hold. Effectively, no ceiling at all. Then, 4 minutes and 36 seconds later, they revoke it, cancel their own request. 3 minutes after that, they submit a new one, and this time the number is 5 million, a real ceiling. And I checked those transactions myself, byte by byte. Somebody proposed something unbounded, caught it inside of 5 minutes, pulled it back, and replaced it with a bounded number. And every step is on a public ledger forever. That is exactly what the waiting period is built to produce. They accepted on August 3rd and moved 1 million in. And then something happened nobody planned. Every other market in that vault runs 88 to 91% lent out. The FXRP market went to 100. 0 left. It's the only market in the vault fully drawn, and the rate climbed to about 15%. Let's go one layer down, because all of this rests on FXRP being worth what everyone says it's worth. And if you learned how FXRP works a year ago, some of what you know is out of date. It used to be you'd send XRP to an independent operator called an agent who posts real collateral, stablecoins plus a pool of FLR, 2 cushions in 2 different assets. Those agents still exist. But in April, Flare shipped version 1.3 and changed the front door. In their own words, there is no agent on the mint side anymore. Your XRP now goes to a shared core vault routed by a destination tag, which, if you've ever deposited XRP to an exchange, is the exact mechanism you already use. Now the honest part. That shift means most FXRP today is not over-collateralized by agents. It's one-to-one XRP custodied in that core vault, and the vault is a 4 of 6 multi-signature account on the XRP ledger with its master key switched off. So it's fully reserved. But the trust assumption is a governed set of signers, not pure code. That's a legitimate design. It's just a different one than most explainers describe. And one more number nobody's talking about. There's a hard cap on how much FXRP can exist, 170 million. About 149 million exists today, roughly 88% of the ceiling. So the thing limiting how big this gets isn't demand, it's a parameter. So FXRP lives on Flare, and this market is on Ethereum. Something has to carry it across, and bridges are where crypto has historically gotten hurt. FXRP crosses using Layer 0's omni-chain token standard, locked on Flare, minted on the other side, and people route it through Stargate Finance. So what security is it running? 4 independent verifiers, all 4 required on every message. Layer 0 Labs, Nethermind, Canary, and Horizon. No single point of failure. And the accounting reconciles. The amount locked on Flare matches what's circulating everywhere else to within 100th of a token. But here's the one that gives me pause, and I'd rather say it than skip it. If a loan goes bad, a liquidator has to sell that FXRP on Ethereum, and there isn't much FXRP on Ethereum to sell into. Total supply over there is about 3 1/3 million tokens, and roughly 78% of that is already sitting in this one market as collateral. Selling 1 million tokens at once would move the price enough to eat the whole liquidation bonus. Now the counterweight. Borrowers here are using about 35% of what they're allowed, against a liquidation line of 77. XRP would have to fall by more than half before any of this is tested. So it's a thing to watch as this grows, not a fire today. And it's the clearest argument for why that 5 million ceiling sits where it sits. So, the scorecard, in both directions. What's genuinely good? XRP got underwritten by a risk desk with real institutional pedigree on Ethereum with public parameters. Bad debt in that market right now is 0. The bridge runs 4 independent verifiers instead of 1, and that submit then revoke moment shows the waiting period doing exactly what it was built to do. What deserves an asterisk? Sentora has published detailed risk write-ups for other assets they've onboarded, and there isn't one for FXRP yet. Morpho's own interface still flags this collateral yellow as unrecognized. And a subtlety I don't want you to miss. People keep saying an isolated market means a failure stays contained. That's half true. Isolation caps how big the loss can be. It does not stop that loss being shared, because Morpho's vault spread it across every depositor's share price. So what can you go do? Go look at the market yourself. It's public, and it shows the live borrowing limit, how much is drawn, and that yellow warning. Go pull the cap. That 5 million number is the most underreported figure in this story, and Morpho's data endpoint is free. And if you hold XRP, read Flare's own docs on the core vault, because what's backing your FXRP changed in April, and a lot of explainers haven't caught up. The takeaway: the size here is small on purpose. What changed on August 3rd isn't that a lot of XRP moved. It's that a professional risk desk was willing to write a number down next to it, in public, where you can hold them to it. If this was useful, a like genuinely helps it reach people who care about the details. Subscribe if you want more of these. Primary sources, on-chain reads, and an honest list of what didn't survive the fact check. Everything I pulled today is written up in the blog post linked below. See you in the next one.